the left is trying to sow this theory that essentially Russians interfered with the U.S. election, which has been proven false. They did not have any impact in the election. Somehow Russia and the Trump campaign, sort of conspired to influence the election. I mean, it's crazy. Until we know all the facts, to suggest that there's obstruction of justice here, I think is taking a reckless step. This idea that there was some collusion with Russian nationals and even Putin to interfere and did interfere with the election, I think is just ludicrous based on what we know at this point.
There is no criminal case to be made on an obstruction of justice. I mean, we have the star witness right now who has testified and then cross-examined a little bit that, quite frankly, his story just doesn't rise to the level of the intent necessary on behalf of the president to even substantiate a criminal case.
The president could and has in our nation's history said, stop investigating this person, or please investigate this other person. So, I mean, I just, this hyperventilation of, what we see here, I don't think sustainable.
But the Deputy Attorney General could terminate by the president's orders. I think that would be a complete...
I was going to say, why would he do that?
Well, he wouldn't and he shouldn't, but he can. And I don't see any current reason or good reason that Bob Mueller shouldn't stay in that special counsel role. No honest person that sits in the world of politics and the world of law that can find anything wrong with Bob Mueller. I don't think that under these facts and circumstances that an obstruction of justice charge, either in the context that we've originally talked about with his discussions with Jim Comey, or in this new context of talking about the possibility of Bob Mueller losing his job as special counsel, I think neither one of those would raise to the level of obstruction. The FBI or Director Mueller need to confirm or deny this. This innuendo of an investigation of a sitting president that no one can seem to confirm, I think, is very dangerous for our republic, and we need to know whether there is actually an investigation or not. I think the American people would like to know that. The appointment of Bob Mueller in the first place, while a good pick for that role, I don't think was necessary or appropriate under these circumstances. The only difference between this current investigation and Watergate is Watergate actually had evidence of real crimes being committed. Right now we have 2 acts by a president that appear to be constitutionally lawful.
The truth is there was no collusion with the Russians in the Trump campaign. There was interference by the Russians into the election, but that is not the collusion with the campaign. And that's where the left seems to be just combining those two issues.
There is no federal crime of collusion. It is, and so we're either looking at sort of espionage type charges, which seem farcical with the evidence we have now, or we're looking at campaign finance violations, which I don't see still don't see any way that you could do that, because there's really nothing of value even if you do prove. They have moved the goalpost, and now to say that, yeah, there's not any evidence that a crime has been committed and you can't prove a case, but there is nobody that's arguing now that Bob Mueller doesn't have legitimacy to investigate these facts and circumstances. Those same Code of Federal Regulations govern the budget of the special counsel, and that is well within the purview of the Attorney General. So I could see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces the budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt. And there is a very specific scope to this investigation, and anything that is outside of Russian coordination or the 2016 campaign would be outside of the scope of that investigation.
There was an interesting comment yesterday from the president on this investigation, and that is, why don't these folks hurry up? I mean, it is not helping this administration and really not helping the federal government generally to have the president and his associates under the cloud of a federal investigation. For whatever reason, Rod Rosenstein determined that the Department of Justice couldn't handle this in their ordinary course of work, which I think was ridiculous. And
exactly.
It was through, an effort by Jim Comey to get this, put in place and have somebody that he's very familiar with, and Bob Mueller, conduct the investigation. So I think it smells a little fishy, but I just hope it doesn't turn into a fishing expedition, because I will be one of the ones jumping up and down.
Good for you, yeah.
Making sure that limitations on this investigation continue, because that's the way it's supposed to be.